Welcome to Talking Halo. This is Derek Ciapola with my co-host, my partners in crime, Jared Timms, Nate Green. This is our draft episode. We are excited. We're stoked. We have no idea what's going on because nobody else does either, but we're going to talk it through anyways because this is what we're all about. Jared, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. It is one of the best weekends of the season behind opening day. The international free agency period starting. The trade deadline's pretty fun as well. And then yeah, playoffs isn't very fun, but we're there. We're there. This is pretty fun for the Angels right now. Got some fun stuff. Got some real fun stuff to talk about.
Pretty fun.
Little
Nate,
curveball.
Yeah, no, this is fun time. Hopefully the Angels make the right decision, but there's going to be a lot of guys to choose from, and it's going to come down to a couple things. But we'll excited to kind of see the different routes the Angels could take today and or tomorrow, I guess. But Jared and I will kind of go through some of those, which will be fun.
all right. So before we move on, we want this conversation to go straight through. We don't want to have a whole bunch of interruptions with it. So we're going to ask you hear a word from our sponsors right now. All right, so guys, right away, I just because we've covered this previously and folks may have missed it, so let's go back real quick. Let's answer the question again one more time, just so we can recap for everybody where we've been on this. If you are the Angels right now with that first round pick, who are you taking if they're there? You're going to go with Nate first. Who are you taking?
Yeah, so this is a tough question because if I'm the Angels, I have the Angels front office and I have the Angels scouting department and I have the Angels development group as well, and they have not been able to develop high school kids. So that's been the one scary thing is you take a high school kid here and he doesn't develop the way you want to, and um, it kind of feels like a miss on pick number two, and you cannot miss on this pick at all. If you miss on this pick, this is a fireable offense, honestly. I know it's not the strongest draft, but you still need to get a guy that's an impact guy. Um, so knowing that, like if Ethan Holiday is there, I think he's just so good that you can't mess him up. That's probably who I would take. But if you go the college route, I think you probably take Ava Arquette, honestly. Just knowing the way that the Angels have developed pitching hasn't been great lately. Liam Doyle doesn't feel like a starting pitcher, doesn't feel um, like a guy who's going to help you for 6, 7, 8 years in the rotation. Maybe he's a really, really good bullpen piece. And Cade Anderson, he feels like a safe pick, but not like the guy who could end up being a huge win for you in this draft. He'll be a good player, but I don't see him as a top end of the rotation piece. So I think Arquette would be the pick after Ethan Holiday, of course.
Sure.
That is an absolutely loaded question.
Yeah.
And get ready for me to go off on about a 20-minute tangent here. So I apologize and feel free to interrupt me whenever you want because I was just over here making points. So first and foremost, you got the big board, right? And it's my big board's going to be different than the Angels' big board, and big board is um, who's in what order, who's in what slot, who do you like the most, that type of thing. It's called the big board. For me, the number one guy in this draft, actually, probably the top three guys in this draft, maybe two guys, depending on which way I'm leaning, are high schoolers, are prep guys, and the Angels have number two overall pick. So if you go best available, it should be a prep player. And for me, I would say it's between Ethan Holiday and Seth Hernandez. I think those are the two best players. Now that doesn't mean that usually doesn't happen where the top players get drafted one, two, three. I mean, you look at even when was it 2022 draft? Was it Skeens 2022, 2023, whenever that was? Top three players
2023.
got picked. But it came down to money, right? At the end of the day. And this draft very much so is going to come down to money and who is willing to take the right amount of money for the Angels. And is that Kate Anderson at around that 8 million to 8 million, $8.5 million spot? Is that, or should I say like, who was the lefty that got drafted last year, Nate, to the White Sox? Hagen Smith.
Oh,
Sorry. Hagen
yeah,
Smith.
Smith.
Hagen Smith money. So that's the way you're looking at that. Is it Liam Doyle who didn't turn in medicals, which concerns you that he didn't turn in medicals, but you now can get him super under slot? Is it Ethan Holiday? Is it Seth Hernandez? Is it Eli Willits? Does Eli Willits take a somewhat of a pay cut? And the last name, yes, it sounds familiar because That's Reggie Willits' son. And there's a little bit of a connection there. So yes, there it is an absolutely loaded question, and everybody wants to take the best player available, but it's not always you always want to hit on your first pick because the Angels have been doing that of late. You look at who they've been pushing up, and a lot of their best players are that first round pick. But with the amount of money the Angels have, they can go out and pick another Trey Gregory Alford, friend of the show, another Caden Dana, Ryan Johnson. Well, maybe not Ryan Johnson, but those types of players late in the draft, the Dylan Jordans, they can take multiple of those this year if the right money comes around. Um, so there is that. There's also the other idea that I've been throwing out there that I know a lot of people either like or absolutely hate. I know Nate probably hates it, but it is very much so an option, and that is to pick somebody at 2 that you're not going to sign and take the third overall pick in the 2026 draft, which has a much better draft associated with that. And in essence, you would have 2 top 12 picks probably in next year's draft with a bunch of money. Now that is an incredibly ballsy move. I put this out on Twitter on X. Incredibly ballsy move. It probably gets you fired. So it's probably not going to happen by any means. But you look at the track record of teams doing that. The Astros did it with Brady Aiken. The next year they went out and got Kyle Tucker and George Springer. Don't quote me on that. I could totally be wrong on the Springer, but it was somebody like that. Oh, Bregman. It was Bregman. It was Alex Bregman
Bregman's,
and
yeah.
Kyle Tucker. The Mets did it a couple years ago, and I believe they got Kumar Rocker the next year. No, they didn't sign Rocker.
They
You got
drafted Kumar Rocker. They missed on Parede, the catcher, and they have the shortstop who's a little
Jet
too
Williams.
short. Yeah, Jet Williams.
Okay, so this
They
is
missed
something.
on their picks there, but
Yeah.
whatever.
This is something that's happened in the past and it has worked out for teams for sure. You have a lot more money to spend next year. Like I said, it's a fireable offense for the Angels, but when you look at it from a fan standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, if you don't like what Perry has done in the draft and staff have done in the draft and you want him to get fired like Nate does, why wouldn't you want to do that? You go into next year you don't have to pick a guy who, because this, for all intents and purposes, when you're looking at this draft, you're comparing it. I compare it to the 2020 draft, right? People are saying Liam Doyle is Garrett Crochet, who got picked 11th overall by the White Sox. People are comparing Kate Anderson to Reed Detmers, who got picked 10th overall by the Angels. And we're talking about those guys being the 1-2 pick when next year any of the top 10 picks are probably the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft, give or take, of course. But any of those top 10 picks are pretty dang close to a number 1 overall pick this year. It's something to think about, 100%. Like it's a fireable offense. It's ballsy. It may not move. It may not do. It may not happen. It probably doesn't happen. Um, but if you don't like this draft very much, which I know a lot of people don't like this draft very much, then why wouldn't you just push it another year? Well, you're not losing anything if you're the Angels, right? Like you're hoping to go out and contend next year. It's minor. You're hoping to go out and contend next year, Nate. It's minor league players,
But
right? At the end of the day, it's like that's all I'm
but
saying.
you're
It's an
losing
idea.
pieces. You're
What
losing
what
pieces, which
what
is the way
pieces?
that Perry
What
has been
pieces are
building.
what pieces are you losing? You're
You
just
would be
pushing
losing
it
your
back
first
a
round
year.
pick.
You're pushing it back a year. You're not losing
Yes,
a first round pick.
I
You're
think
pushing it
but you're
back a year.
still losing it because you're losing time on it, and this is Perry only has 2 years left, right? Like
That's what I told you. That's
so,
exactly what I'm saying. Like for you that does
if
not like Perry Manasian, why
I don't
wouldn't you
think he's
want
done a
him
good job,
fired?
I don't.
I know.
So if he gets fired, though, now you're going to have to redo everything, which is something you don't want to do. You
No, you're
don't want
right.
to reset the entire thing, which is what would happen. And who knows if 2026 is the year that they would be able to compete. It could push them back until 2030. It could push them back to 2028. We don't know. And like you,
Correct.
if you're
But
Perry and you're planning this, like just hand in your resume now.
oh, exactly that. But to your point, you should like this because then it is, in a sense, really getting Perry out of here. You don't have to deal with a high upside college guy that might be a reliever at the end of the day because that's the way it looks like they're taking it. Maybe not. We'll talk about it here in a little while. But, like, would you rather them take Liam Doyle, Perry Minasian get fired? Maybe not this offseason, but next season like during the season, and then all of a sudden you have two picks with a new GM type of thing. Like I don't know.
I have a question.
It's interesting
I have a
to say the
question.
least there. Go ahead.
And let me frame it this way. I think it depends on what is the actual mindset of of the Angels right now. Are you thinking we're going to go college player and do what we've been doing, getting these college guys through the system quickly and getting them up to the majors? Or are you looking at a guy like an Ethan Holiday who is going to be a high school player, perhaps coming up, and he's going to be a couple years probably before he's up? And is that your philosophy for this draft? And we don't know what it is, but so here's my question for you, relating to your thought and to this whole signability thing. How signable, for example, is Ethan Holiday? How about that?
All these guys would be.
Anybody in this draft is going to get underslot. At the top three picks, like with where the Nationals are at and where the Angels are at, like anybody's going to go underslot. So everybody's going to be upset about
So
Angels going underslot. But
if Ethan Holiday is going to is signable, then it kind of then I don't know because I'm sitting there thinking, well, maybe there's a chance they try to have their cake and eat it too. Let's go get the best guy on the board. I agree with Nate. I believe if Ethan Holiday's there, he's got the pedigree, he's got everything behind him. You want to have someone to build around long term because Mike Trout's not going to be there forever. And, he's your name guy that you're going to build around for the next 10 years if you go get Ethan Holiday. But maybe you try for kicking it too because if he isn't signed, then next year you have the number three pick, and anybody who sees his name there, like me, is going to be. I'm not going to fault Perry for taking that guy if he's there. I'm not going to fault him if he shot his shot. To me, then it wouldn't be a fireable offense because he was the best guy on the board. They just couldn't get him no matter how hard they tried, and now we have the number three pick next year. No loss.
yeah,
So
and then
that's what I'm wondering about if that's the
yeah,
case.
yeah,
I would say, go ahead.
I was gonna say on top of that, there's only three guys that I do that with, and all prep guys. My only premise behind that is if the Angels take a college pitcher, even Ava Arquette, it's like cool, like Arquette's good, but like he probably is a early teens guy next year, in the draft. That's how good the draft is next year. With that being with also with that being said, there's only three guys that I wouldn't do it with. It's Ethan Holiday, Seth Hernandez, and you think about Eli Willits as well. So if the Angels are planning on taking a prep guy, then yes, that's totally fine. You push that out the window. And if you some strange reason do take Ethan Holiday and he wants $12 million signing bonus because it's Scott Boras and he's like and Perry's like, hey, we're not going to give you $12 million, and we know Artie. I don't want to call him cheap because we know he's not cheap, but isn't willing to go out and spend that big amount of money on players. I know it's the draft, and I know they have slot value and stuff like that, but if he's not willing to work with Scott Boras, then all of a sudden, yes, it's not Perry's fault. The same thing goes with a Liam Doyle. Like if they take Liam Doyle and they medicals come back because he didn't turn in medicals at the combine, medicals come back really bad. They under offer him like the Kumar Rocker thing. It's like, well, yes, it's a scouting issue for sure, but is that really Perry's fault? They picked a guy that didn't know was really hurt,
Yes.
at the time. Yes, it
Yes.
was. Okay,
Yes.
that's fine, Nick.
Um,
Why is it
and
Perry's fault? Why is it Perry's fault though? Go ahead.
because it's his job to know what you're
They're
taking at
hurt.
pick two.
If they're
At
hurt.
Pause.
pick
You
two
lost me for
is
a second. Which are you talking about? Doyle here? Is this who you're
Doyle.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
referencing?
yeah.
Doyle,
Okay.
absolutely. No, Ethan Holiday, like Derek, to answer your question, there's not one person in this draft that's unsignable for the Angels at pick two. There's not one. If the Angels were at pick 10 or 12, maybe you could tell me that Seth Hernandez or Ethan Holiday, if they were for sure got to the Angels, they would be unsignable. But when you have pick two, everyone is signable. Everyone. So there should not be anyone in this draft that you finish the draft in the first round and say, "Ooh, the Angels will have a tough time signing him." The only way that will happen is if the Angels mess up and take a guy who has an injury history and they say, "Ooh, we didn't know you were hurt. We're going to offer you 2 million." And the guy says, "I'm going back to school," or "I'm going this, I'm going here." That would be the only way that the guy would be unsignable. But going into this draft, everyone is signable for the Angels with how much money they have and the pick that they have.
So, what would you fault them if say Ethan Holiday, they take Ethan Holiday, and like you said, hey, he wants $12 million. You're not going to sign him for that. You're not going to because you need the rest of your draft, right? So would you in that case fault the Angels for shooting their shot and he won't take that money?
Um, well, here,
Wouldn't because you shot your shot on the best player available in the draft and he was unreasonable in what he wanted.
But the problem with that, Derek, is this is a little bit different than the NFL draft. Like guys know what the number is before. Like you call Scott right now, Scott will tell you this is the number that Ethan wants. So you already know going into that pick if Ethan wants 12 or if he wants 10 or if he wants 9 or if he wants 15. Like we already know going into the draft what Ethan wants. And that's kind of the thing that would make it a little bit more of a Perry fault as well because he knows what Holiday wants. So if he's taking him there, that means he thinks that he already has a deal with him where, hey, I already know I'm taking 10. Like I had a guy a couple of weeks ago. Oh, I was just with one of my friends from UCLA and he's supposed to go some point on day 2. And I go, you got a number in mind? He's a sophomore. And he goes, yeah, I got a number. It's 750. And if he gets 750, he's gone. If he doesn't get 750, he's going back to school, and everyone knows that already. So there's not like oh, I might ask for this depending on what team it is. It's like, no, this is my number. This is how much is going to get me into the MLB draft.
So let me ask you a question then. If that is the case, 100%, then why do we have players who don't get signed?
Partly because high school kids don't like where they get picked. Jared will point out that some people don't want to go to the Colorado Rockies right now, and so that would be an issue of like, ooh, I didn't like that the Rockies drafted me. I'm going to be a tough guy to draft. That's one. The other thing that happens sometimes in the first round, like Jared also mentioned, sometimes guys get hurt and you don't know that. Like Kumar Rocker was more hurt than Scott Boras let on. Mets got the medical record back, and I go, "Ooh, this is not what we thought. We can only offer you 1 to 2 million." That's the same thing that happened with Brady Aiken. Both the things that Jared has talked about with the guys not signing, both of them have come back with some sort of UCL injury that the team did not know about beforehand. Brady Aiken had a torn UCL, and Kumar Rocker had a slight tear in his UCL. That's why those guys didn't sign. But for the most part, the guys in the first round are signing. Um, Unless they're a high school kid that was being offered $1 million and they think they should be getting $4 or $5 million. But like I said, most of the teams already know that and think that, oh, maybe I can save some money here and make it work. But first round picks usually sign.
The only other time right now is NIL money. You saw it with Ryan Preger last year, where he went back because I don't know. I don't know the details behind it. I'm pretty sure they had a deal in place, but then Texas A&M came and offered, not more money, but better money to go back and play in college again and see how it works out for Ryan Preger this year, see where he gets drafted. So
Right. So where else later in the draft are the Angels looking? Let's assume they go under slot in the first round, and you're saying that's probably what's going to happen. Where are they looking second round and beyond?
I mean, you look at draft history, and I've mentioned this before. You look at either big school pitchers, so like Texas A&M, Georgia, LSU, those types of pitchers. We've seen it with Ben Joyce. I this year you look at it and it's AJ Russell, Brian Curley, those types of arms. Pico Khan, I think is it Mississippi State or is it Florida State? I don't know. Pico Khan's another name. Or you look at it and if they do go under slot, it's who are they pushing back in the second round? Who are they overslotting in the second round? There's been a bunch of names mentioned. Daniel Pierce is a name for sure. I don't think that a guy like Seth Hernandez is ever pushed back that far unless you have a massive deal on the table in the second round. I don't think that JoJo Parker is another name that for some strange reason gets pushed around. That might get pushed back. But I mean, if it was like a Cruz Schoolcraft out of Oregon, if it was somebody like that, Cam Appenzeller is another name as well. That wouldn't surprise me either. So if the Angels do go under slot in the first, I would 100% expect them to go over slot in the second, maybe third round, depending on who's there. And this has happened before in the past as well. Ty Madden got pushed back. I know he was a favorite, went to the Tigers. The Pirates did it a couple years ago with Bubba Chandler, and you know how he's been a pretty dang good pitcher in that draft when they had the number one overall pick and picked Henry Davis. So yeah, the underslot thing definitely does happen. It can work out for some teams. It may not work out for other teams. So yeah, I'd expect them to kind of do what they did last year. The Chris Cortez's, the Ryan Prager, Ben Joyce in the past as well, Ryan Johnson type of thing where, JB Middleton's another name where he might go in late in the first round, but if he was there in the second round, it wouldn't surprise me if the Angels overslotted him there just because small school and stuff like that. Another thing you also have to look at beyond the second round is our players who don't have a crazy good commitment anywhere. High school prep players that don't have a crazy good commitment anywhere. Caleb Wing, Alan Soler, Michael Winters, Josh Owens is a huge name that's been coming across boards. He's committed to Georgia Southern, and I mean it's a D1 school, but if you're a top 100, top 150 prospect and can get more money because you're going to Georgia Southern in the draft, or teams think that they can manipulate that a little bit more instead of because you're not going to LSU, Tennessee, somewhere big like that, then teams will try to kind of take advantage of that. So those are just names that have small commitments that the Angels may try to pull off. They did it with John Wimmer a couple years ago. I think they gave him $450,000,
Mhm.
something like that, and because he was committed to Winthrop, something like that.
Winthrop, yes.
No, Citadel. He was committed to the Citadel. And Angels took him late and they signed him, which was really really cool as well to see that. So yeah, this theme of the draft is money at the end of the day.
All right, guys. So overall, we're talking a lot about money, but I'm not hearing much about need. So can you explain to listeners about how major league teams, especially the Angels, look at need in a draft where money's so important?
The Angels look at this thing way different than other major league teams. I'll say that right now. Most major league teams don't really care about need at the top of the draft. They all say that most of these guys are 2, 3 years away. Even if it's a really good college player, he's still a year or two away. Um, so most teams are going like, "Hey, we're just going to get a guy that we feel that we can develop, a guy that has the traits that we're looking for, and a guy that we feel can move." So that's why shortstops, you see a lot of shortstops in this draft. You'll see a lot of center fielders, and you'll see a lot of pitchers, because those guys typically can move around the diamond. So those are the things why like need is not that big of a deal to them. Like Ethan Holiday, do the Angels truly need a shortstop right now? No. Can Ethan Holiday play second? Yes. Could he play third? Yes. Like that's part of what most good organizations are looking for. The Angels do things a little bit differently though, where they're saying, "Hey, we know that our minor league system is awful. We cannot develop to save our lives. So we're going to take the best guy available that is going to push through the majors the fastest. And then we are going to save money elsewhere and just take a bunch of seniors that are going to sign for slot value or under slot value, excuse me. We'll take some guys here and there, and then they'll push all their chips in on one high school kid, to hopefully be that guy to develop, which they have kind of been able to do with Kane Dana, but they've kind of haven't really been able to do with anyone else yet. There's some high hopes for Trey Gregory Alford, but there's some other guys that they've kind of missed on. So the need is not that big of a deal for most teams, but for the Angels, don't be surprised if it's a pitcher, a third baseman, an outfielder, center fielder, most likely. Those would be the three things that the Angels would probably take in the first couple of rounds just because they care way more about need than anyone else.
Jared, your thoughts?
You always never want to draft based on need. Um, the Angels do things different. They want guys that are pretty close to MLB ready. On that note, that could change this year, though. We don't know that. That definitely could change this year. So yeah, you never based on need. You never draft based on need, though. I'll always say that no matter what.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Any final thoughts as we head into this draft? Anything you want us to keep an eye on? Any other franchise you want to see us have us keeping an eye on in terms of what you think they might do that's weird or crazy? Nate, Jared, want to shoot your shot on that one?
Go ahead, Nate.
For
I'll finish
me,
off. Yeah.
Go yeah, for me, Keith Law came out with his mock draft today. He had the Angels taking Seth Hernandez. I think he's 3 for 3 on his last mock drafts the day before the draft on getting the Angels picks right. He had Christian Moore, he had Chanuel, for sure. Those two guys. I don't know if he had anyone else, but I know for sure he's had those two right. So just keep an eye on Seth Hernandez at 2. I know the Angels don't typically go prep arm, but Keith Law seems to be know something with the Angels. And Jared also has pointed out the Angels do like Seth Hernandez. Um, and I think the other thing to keep an eye on is who the Mets and Dodgers take in that comp round because they've spent so much money in um, on players. Their pick got pushed back, and that could be a round where the Angels kind of swoop in and depending on if they go underslot in the first, which they probably will, they could steal a guy from the Mets or Dodgers because they offer him a little bit more money to go back a couple more picks. So I would keep an eye on those two picks as well.
Jared.
My dark horse team is Baltimore. I think they're going to have a good draft. I think that they this draft kind of plays into what they got going on, at least for me. And and yeah, Nate mentioned it. I don't think it's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna be Seth Hernandez. If I had to take a guess at who the Angels were picking, because it's the Angels, I'm gonna throw out Eli Willits right now. I think the Angels will take Eli Willits. Sounds like it just feels like there's a change in change. The winds have changed all of a sudden. I mean, we saw Nate just mentioned it with Seth Hernandez, you know. It just all of a sudden last couple of days, it just feels like the winds have all of a sudden kind of changed. Liam Doyle, who they liked, didn't turn in his physicals. What does that mean? You know, if Cade Anderson isn't there at two, do they take Cade Ander? Do they not take Cade Anderson? You know, like I think that I think the winds have changed. I think they're going to take Eli Willits.
Why?
I don't know.
I mean, his
That's just my
ceiling,
thought.
from what I've been reading, isn't as high as some of the other ceilings that are out there. So why take him?
Money. That's the
I
short
mean,
answer for
if
you.
the
Don't
idea
like that
was
one?
to get a
Money.
guy who's majorly ready quickly,
Feels like the winds
okay,
have changed.
that's a Scorpion song. All right. Anyways, follow us on X at Talking Heels. Follow Nate at Nate at Nate Green 34, Jared at Jared underscore Timms, and me at DC Paula. Where we should be podcasting for the draft. Wasn't that right? We were going to try and
Yes.
Yeah,
so
tomorrow we should be on playback, right?
playback. Yes, we sorry about that this week. Got busy, but anyways, we're out. Have a great one.